Japan doubtlessly brings to mind the bright lights and office workers streaming out of Tokyo towers. It often makes us think of technology and futuristic attractions and bullet trains. However, beyond Tokyo's lights, the nation is filled with history and natural beauty. While Japan is one of the most densely populated countries in the world, with a population of 126 million, only a quarter of its land is habitable, as the rest is so mountainous. In part, this landscape is responsible for the historic Nakasendo Way. The Nakasendo Way is a historic road from the Edo period, which covered 1603 to 1868, a time of unprecedented economic growth in Japan. In 1603, the Tokugawa shogunate ordered all feudal warlords to build and maintain a passable road of more than 540 kilometers. Beginning in Kyoto, the former capital, and ending in Edo, the new capital, or Tokyo as it is called today. It would take the challenging inland route over mountainous passes and grassy valleys, through dense forests, past tumultuous waterfalls, and over fast-flowing rivers. The warlords were ordered to put in place bridges and stone paving. The Nakasendo Road led samurai, feudal lords, merchants, and pilgrims from one city to the next. Here they could rest in safety, get meals, and enjoy the tea houses. Each post town was to have a kosatsuba, a notice board, setting out in great detail the rules of the road and the town. Our walk covers 140 kilometers over 10 days, as much of the original road has been virtually obliterated by modern development. We see some of the most stunning countryside and impeccably restored and maintained post towns, stay almost exclusively in traditional wooden inns, frequently hosted by families having owned and lived in for hundreds of years. The tour officially starts at 6 p.m. with a meet and greet. Our leader is Yochi, who is very fluent in English, having lived in Australia for a time. We are a group of 10. Besides the introductions, we have a chance to learn vital do's and don'ts of traveling in Japan. How do we use the bath? Where do we take off our shoes? Who knew you had to change slippers before entering the toilet? We will embarrass ourselves numerous times in the days ahead. After the briefing, we head off to a nearby restaurant for our first of many group dinners. We are near the Gion district, famous for its geisha. We cross Kyoto's Sanjo-Ohashi Bridge, the official starting point for the Nakasendo Way, and take our first group photo in front of the charming Nakasendo Way's statue of two travelers. Up for a 7 a.m. buffet breakfast offering both Western and Japanese dishes. Everyone goes for the familiar Western selection: eggs, bacon, sausages, cereal, or fruit. An hour later, we depart for the train station. We have packed the toiletries and essential items we will need this evening. Our suitcases left in the hotel lobby will not be reunited with us for 2 days. We take the train following the old Nakasendo, which parallels Lake Biwa to Hakone. It was a journey that took 2 full days on foot. We cover the distance in an hour. We walk in Hakone. The castle is one of the few in Japan that has been preserved perfectly, untouched by time. It is considered a national treasure. completed in 1622, the heyday of the Edo period. Staircases were deliberately built steep, extremely steep, as a defensive measure. Some scenes from the movie Shogun, featuring Tom Cruise, were shot on location at the castle. We visited the castle museum and climbed the steep stairs and enjoyed the view from the top, then head back down again via the very steep stairs and wander the castle grounds. Back to the train station, we continue our journey to Sekigahara, considered the site of one of the most important battles in Japanese history, where over 200,000 warriors fought. It was a decisive battle, ending a century of civil wars. It marked the unification of Japan and beginning of the 270-year Tokugawa dynasty and Edo period. We meet locals in costume who are reenacting battle scenes and take our photo with them. Walking back to the inn, we stop at the East Burial Mound for heads. After the war, Tokugawa, the winning general, identified defeated generals by viewing their severed heads. Here their heads were buried. Their torsos were buried separately in the West Burial Mound. In our rooms, the futons have been laid out on the tatami mats along with our personal yukata and obi, which we wear in the inn, for meals and sleeping. Everywhere we stay, we are given sleeping wear. No need to pack pajamas on a trip to Japan. We experience our first roster for the bath. These ancient inns do not have en-suites, so everyone is given a time slot for the bathroom to clean up and relax in a hot bath. We gather in the dining room dressed in our yukata for our first of many culinary delights. We are served donami, hot pot, similar to sukiyaki, but in a clay pot rather than iron. We eat family style. We meet for breakfast, where Yoichi explains what we are being served. It is our first traditional Japanese breakfast, and much of it is unrecognizable to these gaijin. We take what becomes a morning ritual, a group photo in front of the inn. Then we head back to the train station. This is a morning of many trains. We take a series of 5 local trains before starting our walk, each time switching to a smaller and smaller train. The last had only 2 cars. Lunch is at a small restaurant where we are served traditional Japanese pancakes made with pork and cheese. Photos are taken out front. And now, truly, we begin our walk on the Nakasendo Way. This afternoon is about 12 kilometers, meandering amongst small farms and through tiny villages. The route is reasonably well marked with signs for the Nakasendo Way. Occasional stretches of the path still retain the original stone paving, and wayside shrines abound for the protection of travelers. at the Daikoa-kua Inn, a 17th century inn built during the Edo period. The current building is more modern, built in the 1850s after a fire. New is a relative term here. A steep staircase leads up to our rooms, and an even steeper one to the toilets. We are warned about crashes in the middle of the night, followed by a torrent of swearing if we are not careful. Before breakfast, Yoichi takes Diane and I down the block to join a group of 5 folks from the town who are doing morning radio calisthenics. Radio calisthenics was introduced to Japan in 1928 as a commemoration of the coronation of Emperor Hirohito. NHK Radio broadcasts the half-hour calisthenics program each morning at 6:30 a.m. We are the hit of the day, and they set up a tripod to take our picture together at the end. Breakfast, group photo, and off. We have learned the kanji characters for the Nakasendo Way: road and mountain and pass. String the 3 together and you have Nakasendo Way, or road passing through the mountains. The route is lined with storyboards and stone markers. Yoichi shares with us Japan's history of the route, as these are all written in Japanese. Town is Okute. We come to a temple with a giant cedar said to be 1,300 years old and venerated as a kami, or Shinto god. Everyone jostles for the best vantage point to take its photo. Today for lunch, we have a picnic of traditional sushi. This sushi is not at all as we know it, but rather a 2-inch square of rice with a few small flakes of cooked salmon, small amount of egg, mushroom, and another green vegetable. It is nice, but would not gain popularity in Canada. Arriving to Ina, our accommodation is a regular hotel. We sleep in beds tonight rather than futons laid out on tatami mats. The futons were softer than the beds in the hotel. Breakfast was buffet style in our hotel, so there was no need for an explanation about what we would eat. Most ate Western and had eggs, bacon, cereal, or fruit. Before starting our walk, we went to the Hiroshige Print Museum. We watched a short movie explaining the steps required to make a print. First, a series of wood pictures are cut for each color used in the print. Sequentially, ink is rolled onto the wooden block with the print paper laid on top. The color is transferred onto the paper. The process continues with a different block with a different color transferred onto the print. The end result is a colored print that looks like it was painted by hand. Quite amazing. After seeing how it was done, we had a chance to try our hand. They actually turned out not bad. From the museum, we started the day's walk. It was shorter than yesterday at 18 kilometers, but gained a bit more elevation at 525 meters. Our halfway point is the old post town of Nakasendo. There is a terrific kosashuba, the Edo period message boards erected at the town entrances along the Nakasendo. These signs set out in clear fashion the laws and regulations of the ruling Tokugawa regime, and the use of signboards became widespread in Japan after 1711. Regulations broadcast on the message boards range from strictures against Christianity, a ban on forming associations not agreed upon by authorities, and announcements on the set fee for employing porters between towns. Punishments for disobeying the official Tokugawa laws were strict and included beheading and crucifixion. Severed heads were often displayed to deter others. The legacy of telling people what to do and what not to do is evident to this day in Japan. Such top-down control is a hangover from the authoritarian Edo period. After lunch, our path is distinctly uphill to go over Magome Pass. The last part of the day was along one of the best preserved parts of the old highway and was a lovely forested area to walk through. We stay at a place called Shinchaya, New Tea House, one of the best preserved along the Nakasendo. And again, new is a relative term. Modern travel involves searching out the Wi-Fi code everywhere you stay. At the New Tea House, it is posted on the wall. I took a picture so I could enter the password once I got settled in my room. There was no way I could remember it. Complicated passwords at the inns was the norm. Our traditional dinner included a grasshopper or two on each plate, or 3, or 4, or 5, if others who were sitting near you didn't seem so keen on trying them. Today's walk is relatively short at only 10 kilometers. We start off walking a half hour to Magome. This is a very well-preserved post town and popular with loads of buses bringing in tourists. Of the Japanese novelist Shimazaki Tosan, who wrote Before the Dawn. His novel describes Magome in the middle of the 19th century as his father and Japan come to terms with the West. It questions the definition of Japanese identity and deals with the upheaval of changing from a feudal to modern society. The book is on the reading list of all Japanese secondary school students. Leaving town, we follow the way up to a mountain pass, appropriately named Magome Toge, Toge meaning pass. Here, like most of our walk, there are surprisingly few hikers. In a country as populated as Japan, it surprises me each day how few people we come across.
It's a go.
Our next post town is Shugamo, arguably the most attractive of all post towns. Shumago inhabitants take great pride in their town and have banished telephone poles, electric lines, and vending machines from the main street. Time for more photos and browsing in the shops. We get a guided tour of a former high-class inn, now a museum, and once reserved only for top-ranking samurai. Checking into our inn, we take a bus to the village's onsen, a thermal hot spring, for our first onsen experience. The onsen was separated so that men and women each had their own bath. It was very relaxing and a nice way to end our day, sans bathing suits. Today is our longest at 24 kilometers. Stop at a local supermarket and have ample choices to select from for a picnic lunch to be eaten later in the day. From Nagaso, our hike takes us gradually higher and higher through quiet farming hamlets until we ascend through a forest to Ninu Pass. Gradually reach Nagaso, where the route takes us across the Momoshuki Bashi, an impressive wooden footbridge suspended across the Kiso River. First built in 1912, it subsequently fell into dangerous decay, but fortunately was rebuilt in 1993. steep descent for an hour to Nojiri train station. It is the longest and most difficult section of our whole walk, but with alpine vistas of the Japan Alps. The train ride to Kiso Fukushima is 40 minutes. We spend the night at a modern ryokan near the middle of town. The inn has its own onsen to relax in before dinner and has been run by the same family for centuries. Dinner is another gastronomic feast. If the previous night's dinner was a gastronomic feast, our morning meal took us to a new level of breakfast dining. We are each served 2 trays with the most delicately prepared dishes. Yoichi had to again explain what each dish held. Our first stop is a reconstructed barrier station that straddles the old highway. The role of the barrier station was to control travel. Samurai guards checked every person on the highway for the required authorization to travel. They looked out particularly for the wives of the daimyo attempting to leave Edo and would order strip searches if disguise was suspected. High waterfall, Karasawa no Taki, where we start our climb up forests to Jizo Pass. The views are beautiful, particularly as the trees are changing to their fall colors. Again, we have views to die for, and virtually no one else on the trail. highlight of the day was the stop for lunch of corn soup followed by pizza. No rice. It was a terrific stop. We ate outdoors where we had great views, and a model train was laid out for our entertainment. To top it off, the owner, his wife, and son entertained us with singing, harmonica playing, and traditional guitar playing.
Nanjara hoi, natsu de mo samui yoi yoi yoi. Hora!
Yoi 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 no yoi 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 no yoi yoi yoi.
Kiso no na.
Continuing our walk, we passed the Kyoto horse stable and dug in to check it out. These horses were brought to Japan as pack animals and are a short, stocky breed. Dinner, as usual, has many dishes. One included a choice of horse meat. Our morning started with a bus ride to the trailhead. The walk today is 11 kilometers, climbing up to the Toritoge mountain pass. The elevation at 1,197 meters is similar to an elevation to where we live in Calgary. Unfortunately, just as we started to walk, it began to rain. It was not a heavy rain, but enough to get us all to take out our rain gear that we have been carrying. It was not cold, but just cool enough that we did not overheat. The walk had a few steep spots, but we all made it up safely. There was a Shinto shrine at the top, but because of the rain, the views were limited. down to Nare, where we had a soba noodle lunch and time to wander the town. Unfortunately, it was still raining and a number of the shops were closed, so it was not the best time to explore. From Nare, we took 3 trains to get to Karizawa. Our tour leader had all the train tickets purchased and we were ready to go. We got on our first train, but when we got to the second train it was delayed as the rain had turned into a thunder and lightning storm. We got to Karizawa slightly later than originally planned, but it really wasn't that late and we were just thankful we didn't have to figure out the delays and train changes on our own. It must be said that the train toilet was a squatter. Drop your pants, face the wall, and hold on to the safety bar and do your business. You won't find this on Via Rail. Once an old post town, Karizawa is the epitome of a high-class mountain resort in Japan. First developed by Christian missionaries as a cool summer retreat, Karizawa now attracts a great number of visitors. John Lennon frequented with Yoko Ono. Tonight we had another gastronomical feast that included blowfish, which, if not prepared correctly, will kill you. Food on this tour has been great, but tonight may have been the best. This is our last hiking day before taking the bullet train into Tokyo. Near the inn we pass a stone inscribed with a poem by arguably Japan's most famous poet, Basho. Up the road as the trail is closed because of a typhoon that swept through Japan a couple of weeks before we arrived to Usui Toge, another mountain pass. The road was a bit steep at times, but the maple forest with its red leaves was beautiful and the views at the top were definitely worth the climb. Once back down into the town, we walked to the Kumobake Pond. The fall colors were magnificent and we met the largest crowds of the walk as hundreds and hundreds circulated the lake. We spend time taking photos and enjoying the pond in spite of all the people. From there it is off for a burger lunch and a wander through the town before taking the Shinkansen to Tokyo.
Coming around the mountain line.
Once in Tokyo, we did our final walk to Nihonbashi, the bridge which marks mile 0 of the Nakasendo Way. It is the point from which all highway distances in Japan are officially measured. It marks the end of our walk. Dinner tonight was at a Tokyo-style pub. We had a 2-hour reservation where they brought out dish after dish, more than I could count, with an open bar the whole time. It was a lot of fun, and again the food was very good. We ended dinner celebrating Frank's birthday. The walk is over. Japan is a novel country to visit. Clean, clean, clean. Safest place you can visit. Full of things to see and do that cannot be found elsewhere. The Nakasendo Walk is advertised as a walk through historic feudal Japan. I would describe it as a cultural and gastronomic tour